With that, we bring in former UN Ambassador John Bolton, also served as President Trump's Assistant for National Security Affairs, otherwise known as the National Security Advisor. Good to see you. All right, help us understand this. Is President Biden heading over to Japan with a strong hand or a weak hand?
Well, I think it's with a weak hand by his own design. He doesn't have a strategic idea about how to handle the threats the United States faces in the world. I think the lack of strategy in Ukraine after 15 months of conflict now speaks for itself. One of the subjects of this G7 meeting is going to be how to deal with China. He doesn't have a strategy for that. And I think that his general weakness is very much in evidence. There's simply no doubt about it.
This is what I think is interesting, because the president ran for president saying he was going to bring America back to leadership positions of the world, back to respect in the world, obviously, ... as opposed to President Trump. And if you look at foreign policy approval ratings domestically for President Biden, they're dismal. 41%. More people approved of Trump and way more people approved of President Obama. So he's completely losing in that sense. But U.S. approval rating by other nations, not that we should care, but just to put this out here. South Korea, 59% favorable in 2020, 89% now. Austria, 31% 2020, 54% now. Japan, 41% to 70% now. France, 31% to 57% now.
Well, there are a lot of different reasons, I think, for these changes in percentages overseas, but primarily it had to do more with Trump's perceived attitudes about our friends. He seemed to enjoy speaking more with our adversaries and was more critical of our friends. The real issue, though, and you put your finger on it, is not what the approval ratings are, frankly, overseas or here. It's, does the president have a clear understanding of what America's national interests are, and is he prepared to make hard decisions to pursue them? Trump had no idea what America's national interests were. He knew what Donald Trump's interests were, and he pursued that. But Joe Biden doesn't have a good sense of America's national interests either. We hear a lot of rhetoric about the importance of alliances and the importance of democratic governments, and certainly all that's true, but to the purpose of helping support American interests and those of our allies. And that's where Biden falls down. He loves talking. He loves going to meetings like the G7. But we'll see what comes out of this. Japan is the host. They really have the lead. But obviously, America is the leading country there. And we'll see if anything concrete emerges. I'm doubtful, but for what it's worth.
Yeah, you make a great point, and I think this is, I'm sort of stunned to hear it, but that you say Japan is leading there. And we're at a point right now where America is no longer the unquestioned leader of the free world. There are other world leaders now that occupy different sort of spheres of influence. And I think about President Biden's meeting with world leaders. Putin in Geneva, clearly we know how that worked out because Putin then invaded Ukraine. Visited with the Pope in the Vatican, fine. Fist bumped the Saudi Crown Prince in Jeddah. Met Xi Jinping in Bali, attended a summit, discussed immigration with Mexican President Andrew Manuel Lopez Obrador. That was in January. We know the results at the southern border. I'm just to be fair here, I'm trying to find where the president has put America in a stronger position in any part of the globe today than we were the day Donald Trump left office, for as much as you don't like Donald Trump.
Well, I think Biden has his attention focused on the wrong areas. I think particularly with respect to China, they remain interested in doing climate change negotiations. And that's just not an interest that is of the same strategic importance as making sure that China doesn't become dominant in the Indo-Pacific region and push us and our allies into a defensive posture. You know, there's a difference between the isolationism of the Democratic Party and the isolationism of the Republican Party. The Democrats think America really, in a sense, is too powerful. We push our allies around. We try and get our own way too much. They're embarrassed about America. Trumpian isolationism is, I just don't care about the rest of the world. And they're both wrong, but for different reasons. We have to care about the rest of the world because our economy and way of life here depend on it. And we shouldn't be shy about asserting our interest like the liberals are, because if we don't assert our interest internationally, who do you think is going to?
Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.